Imagine being the sitting president of the United States and watching your biggest night get overshadowed by the one person you thought was no longer a threat. That's exactly what happened when Donald Trump tried to edge Barack Obama out of a major Washington event, only for Obama to walk in and completely change the atmosphere. The ballroom was glowing under tall chandeliers, with waiters moving carefully between rows of tables filled with donors in formal suits. This wasn't just another political dinner. It was the annual gala for the American Housing Relief Foundation, hosted at the Marriott Marquis in downtown D.C. The room was packed with politicians, business leaders, and well-known public figures. The energy was already high, but everything shifted the moment the announcer's voice filled the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome former President of the United States, Barack Obama." The reaction was instant. The entire room stood up at once, cheering and applauding with real excitement. Phones shot into the air as guests tried to capture the moment. Even people seated at the far corners leaned forward to get a better look as Obama made his entrance. The applause kept growing, and for a moment, it felt like the whole event had turned into a celebration just for him. Guests exchanged surprised looks, clearly not expecting the night to take this kind of turn. He stepped forward with his recognizable raised hand and that calm, easy smile he was known for. But not everyone in the room shared the excitement. At the front table sat President Donald Trump, shoulders stiff and lips pressed into a thin line. Just moments earlier, he had been the main speaker of the evening, until everything shifted. He hadn't expected Obama to appear at all. Trump spoke quietly under his breath, just loud enough for his security chief, Mark Delaney, to hear. Delaney leaned closer, eyes still scanning the crowd. "Sir, the hosts say the board invited President Obama at the last minute, mainly for visibility." Trump shook his head slowly as the applause continued to roll through the room. "Visibility? He isn't taking my moment, not tonight." The crowd didn't notice Trump's irritation. Guests were too busy greeting Obama, some even stepping away from their tables for a quick handshake. A senator from Arizona leaned toward her colleague and whispered, "Look at this, he still commands the room." And she wasn't wrong. Obama's arrival had completely changed the mood. Trump watched with narrowing eyes. This night had been planned as his chance to highlight his leadership on housing reform, an issue both parties cared about. Yet now, every camera and every conversation centered on the man who came before him. Obama continued moving through the room at an easy pace, exchanging warm greetings along the way. A retired Army general placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "Mr. President, great to see you." Obama smiled and replied, gently and naturally, "Always good to be back in this city, General. Always." People seemed to absorb his calm energy. With every step he took, the applause kept rising instead of fading. Some guests even stayed standing until he reached a spot near the stage. At the front table, Trump's jaw tightened. He tapped his finger against his glass, creating a steady, sharp click. "This is my night," he whispered, though the words sounded more like he was trying to convince himself. Ivanka, seated nearby, glanced at him with concern. "Dad, maybe just let it play out. He's here for charity," she said carefully. But Trump didn't answer. His attention was locked on Obama, someone he still saw as a longtime rival, someone whose confidence had once made him the punchline at a major dinner years earlier. Old memories resurfaced fast. Meanwhile, Obama wasn't trying to take anything from anyone. He kept the tone light, smiling at donors and even bending down to talk with a group of college volunteers near the back. His ability to connect effortlessly with both influential guests and everyday people was exactly why the room leaned toward him. People weren't applauding just because he was a former president. They felt seen when he spoke to them, that a businessman whispered to his wife at the next table. "You can feel the difference. He makes the moment about other people, not about himself." She nodded, eyes still fixed on Obama as cameras flashed and reporters from major outlets took notes. They knew the evening had suddenly shifted, and something notable was unfolding right in front of them. Then, gradually, the noise in the room began to settle. The applause softened. People took their seats again. Conversations faded into low murmurs. One by one, all eyes turned back toward the head table, toward Trump, whose expression was now unreadable. Obama hadn't even spoken yet, But the tone of the night had clearly changed. The question hanging in the air was no longer just about housing policy or charity. It was something deeper, something everyone in the room felt but didn't dare to say out loud. Trump's frustration seemed to drain the warmth out of the room, shifting the atmosphere instantly. Obama, meanwhile, stayed perfectly composed, as if none of it had touched him. After a brief moment, he turned toward Linda Ortega, his tone gentle and respectful. "Linda," he said quietly, "I'll leave this up to you. If you'd prefer I step aside, I'm happy to do that. If you want me here, I'll stay." Her answer came without hesitation. "We would be honored if you shared a few words tonight." The room erupted into applause once again, this time louder, clearer, and almost determined. Some guests stood on their feet, clapping with both relief and resolve. The message was unmistakable. Trump's face tightened as the cheers grew stronger. Obama stepped forward, offering a small, reassuring smile to the guards who were still waiting for direction. "Looks like everything's settled," he said kindly. "Thank you for handling this respectfully." The guard stepped back, clearly relieved to have the pressure lifted. For a moment, Obama looked toward Trump. Their eyes met, one face calm and steady, the other tense, flushed with frustration. It was a striking contrast that the entire room felt without a word being spoken. Then Obama turned back to the audience, raising his hand slightly, his usual signal that he was about to speak. "My friends," he began, his voice steady and warm, "tonight isn't about me. It isn't about political differences. It's about families in this country who deserve a safe place to live." The sincerity in his tone pulled the room back to its purpose. Guests leaned in again, not because of drama, but because of how genuine the moment felt. And yet the real turning point was only just beginning. What Obama said next would completely shift the mood in a way no one expected. The applause that followed Linda Ortega's defense of Obama wasn't just polite encouragement. It was a clear, unified message. It was the room saying they refused to be intimidated or pushed around. The sound echoed through the ballroom with even more strength than before. People clapped with a kind of quiet defiance, as if they wanted Trump to know exactly where they stood. Obama stayed calm, his posture relaxed, but he understood the moment. This wasn't just any fundraiser speech. It had become a test of leadership, and every camera in the room was recording. One misstep could change everything. Linda Ortega, still holding the microphone tightly, glanced at Trump, then back to Obama. Her voice softened. "Mr. President, would you be willing to say a few words?" The room instantly fell silent. Forks lowered onto plates. Side conversations faded out. Even the band stopped playing. Every set of eyes turned toward Obama. Trump's expression twisted with frustration. "Oh, come on," he muttered, loud enough that several nearby guests heard it clearly. But the attention had already shifted. The entire room waited for Obama to speak, and the tension hung in the air like a held breath. Guests near the front leaned in, whispering that Linda sounded almost like she was introducing a major performer. At Trump's table, Ivanka leaned closer, trying to calm the situation. "Dad, let him speak. The cameras are everywhere. If you push this any further, it won't look good," she said gently. Trump shook his head sharply. "I am the cameras. They're here for me." But the truth was already visible. Every lens, every phone, every glance in the room was pointed at Obama. Instead, Obama didn't rush toward the stage. Instead, he moved slowly, intentionally, stopping to shake hands and greet a few more people along the way. Each step built anticipation, and the crowd leaned forward, not wanting to miss a single moment. When he finally reached the stage, he placed one hand on the wooden podium, scanned the room, and let the silence settle. He didn't hurry. He didn't shift nervously. He simply waited until the ballroom quieted on its own, until the room was hanging on the stillness he created. Then, with a gentle, almost modest smile, he began. "I wasn't planning on speaking tonight," he said, voice smooth and steady. "I just wanted to show support for a cause that matters deeply." He paused, allowing a small wave of warm laughter to pass through the audience. "But since I've been handed the microphone, I'll share just a few thoughts." At the head table, Trump's hands curled tightly. He leaned toward Mark Delaney and muttered under his breath. "I knew this would happen." He's taking over the whole night. But at the tables around him, people weren't paying attention to Trump anymore. They were focused entirely on Obama. His tone wasn't loud or flashy. It was personal, almost like he was having a one-on-one conversation with every person in the room. "This evening isn't about me," Obama continued. "It's not about politics, and it's not about any past tension between people in this room." He glanced gently across the audience. "It's about families. Families in Cleveland, in Phoenix, in Tulsa, who are wondering this week if they'll still have a place to call home." He let the words linger. Then he leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice just enough to draw the audience in. "It's about a mother trying to explain to her kids why they're sleeping in their car. It's about a veteran who served this country and came back with nowhere to stay. It's about children who carry their homework in plastic bags because they don't have a table to sit at or a light to read by." The ballroom went almost completely still. The only sounds were pens writing notes and the faint clicks of cameras. Obama's words created clear images, and the room seemed to see every one of them. The parking lots, the shelters, the dim corners where families were trying to make it through another night. Linda Ortega stood off to the side, hands clasped, relief washing across her face. Just moments earlier, she had feared the event was slipping into chaos. Now, in front of her, the night was being steadied and rebuilt. Obama straightened slightly. "I've been fortunate in my life," he said softly. "I've had chances many people never get." He paused, the moment settling over the room. "And because of that, I feel a responsibility, a real responsibility, to help where I can.